When war reached its breaking point, alliances were no longer forged by honor but by the weight of what one was willing to offer. If you enjoy my way of explaining and storytelling, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really motivates me to keep creating. Almost at the exact same moment, an azure arc of lightning flashed in the air above the jade carriage, upon which Han Li appeared out of thin air before immediately sweeping a sleeve through the air. Several tens of small golden swords shot forth from within, transforming into streaks of golden light that rained down from above. Break! The middle-aged Daoist priest yelled as his expression changed drastically. As he did so, he pointed a finger toward the yin-yang mirror overhead. A pillar of black and white immediately shot forth from the surface of the mirror before transforming into clumps of thin threads that attempted to ensnare the golden streaks of light. A string of resounding booms erupted as threads and the golden light clashed, and the black and white threads were severed with ease as if they were delicate strands of silk. The Daoist priest's heart jolted with shock, and before he had a chance to react, the flying sword had already struck the azure ball of light around the carriage. The same thing happened again. The azure light was only able to withstand these streaks of golden light for a brief moment before being completely punctured, and the golden light continued onward, having barely been slowed down at all by the obstacles thrown at them. The elderly man and the Daoist priest were truly petrified now. The two of them rose into the air at the same time, abandoning the jade carriage beneath their feet as they fled through the air in different directions. One was an azure streak of light, and the other as a white streak of light. In the blink of an eye, they were already over 100 feet away and had just barely managed to evade the small golden swords. As the middle-aged Daoist priest hurtled into the distance, he patted one of the spirit beast pouches hanging from his waist, and a clear cry erupted from within as a snowy white bird around a foot in size emerged. The bird had a pair of green eyes, a sharp crimson beak, and a pair of black talons. The Daoist priest was feeling greatly reassured after summoning this bird, and he reached into his sleeve before producing a crimson badge. There was red light shimmering over the badge, and a dense bunch of runes could also be seen on its surface. Before he had a chance to activate this badge, spatial fluctuations proliferated forth from the air above him, following which Han Li emerged from an arc of azure lightning. He turned his gaze toward the Daoist priest down below and harumphed coldly as brilliant blue eyes radiated from his eyes. The Daoist priest was naturally greatly alarmed and immediately tried to activate the treasure in his hand. However, he suddenly felt as if his spiritual sense had been viciously pricked by a sharp object, and he was suddenly afflicted by a splitting headache. A cry of pain immediately escaped his mouth as blood began to trickle out from his ears and nostrils, and he almost dropped the badge in his hand in his agony. Han Li took advantage of this opportunity to flick his 5 fingers in quick succession, sending 5 red threads flashing through the air. Meanwhile, green light flashed in his other hand, and a green wooden ruler emerged, which he gently waved it toward the snowy white bird. Crimson flames hurtled through the air, and threads punctured the middle-aged Daoist priest's body. The threads then wound themselves around him, transforming into 5 thick, fiery ropes that rendered him completely immobile. Only then did the Daoist priest return to his senses in the aftermath of his excruciating headache, and his face immediately turned deathly pale as he realized the desperate situation that he was in. He was completely unable to move, and he hurriedly summoned his spirit bird to come and rescue him using his spiritual sense, but it completely ignored his orders. The Daoist priest was feeling extremely alarmed as he turned his attention toward the spirit bird, only to find that a silver lotus flower had appeared above its head. 7-colored Buddhist light was emanating from the lotus flower, enshrouding the spirit bird's entire body and completely immobilizing it as well. A wave of shock and fury surged through the Daoist priest's heart, and before he had a chance to think out of this dire situation, a gentle breeze swept over his head, and a streak of golden light came crashing down like lightning from above. The Daoist priest could only cry out in despair before he was decapitated by the golden light. Han Li's body reappeared amid the gust of wind, and he immediately raised both hands into the air at the same time. Loud thunderclaps rang out as a vast expanse of golden lightning arcs shot forth, interweaving with one another to form a golden net. The entire net was shimmering with golden light and creating a raucous commotion as it ensnared the Daoist priest's headless body. Han Li then began to chant something, and scorching flames suddenly erupted from the ropes binding the Daoist priest's body. Bursts of crimson flames shot forth immediately thereafter, instantly reducing the body to a pile of ashes. However, almost at the exact same moment, the Daoist priest's nascent soul emerged from the flames within a ball of white light. It was holding a white scepter in its hands and was desperately attempting to flee into the distance. However, it crashed headfirst into the golden lightning net, upon which it was rebounded amid a string of rumbling thunderclaps. Brilliant golden light then radiated forth as the golden net exploded violently, and the nascent soul was instantly reduced to nothingness amid the devastating explosion. Only then did Han Li exhale gently as he turned toward another direction with a cold light in his eyes. At this moment, the elderly man had already fled to over 400 feet away, and he had pulled out a pair of azure bowls from a storage pouch hanging from his waist. He hadn't even made up his mind about whether he wanted to attack Han Li yet, and the Daoist priest was already dead. The elderly man's heart immediately sank upon seeing this, and he felt as if his entire body had been plunged into a glacial pit. As Han Li swept his gaze toward the elderly man, the latter suddenly raised an arm, and a burst of azure light flashed as he used the sharp edge of one of his bowls to dismember one of his own arms. The amputated arm exploded amid a loud thump, and the resulting blood mist enshrouded the elderly man's entire body as a blood-curdling shriek rang out. The blood around the elderly man's body transformed him into a faint crimson shadow, which hurtled rapidly into the distance. Following just a few flashes, the crimson shadow had already covered a distance of over 1,000 feet, and the speed of its movement was rather astonishing even to Han Li. Han Li's eyes narrowed, and a hint of hesitation appeared on his face. During that split-second delay, the crimson shadow completely disappeared into the distance. Han Li stroked his chin and shook his head as a slightly forlorn look appeared on his face. It appeared that this man had mastered a movement technique similar to the blood shadow evasion technique. In that case, Han Li was reluctant to expend the time and effort required to chase him down. His top priority was to get to Heavenly Star City as quickly as possible after all. With that in mind, he turned his attention to the spirit bird, which was still trapped under the silver lotus flower conjured up by the 8-spirit ruler. He flicked a finger through the air and a golden sword shot forth, instantly slicing the bird in half and putting an end to its life. This was a spirit beast that had been nurtured by the Daoist priest's blood from birth, so there was no way for it to be tamed by anyone else. As such, Han Li naturally wasn't going to let it live. After that, he transformed into a streak of azure light again as he flew directly toward Heavenly Star City. On this occasion, he was flying at full speed, and it only took him around 10 minutes to pass through the Heavenly Windfire Formation's restriction. Han Li's body faltered slightly as he broke through the formation, and he paused in his flight as he looked on at Heavenly Star City from afar. There in the distance, the city's gargantuan walls had been enshrouded under a dense barrier of faint blue light. In the air above the light barrier, there were large swaths of red and azure light striking down upon it relentlessly. As the lights of different colors intertwined with one another, earth-shattering thunderclaps rang out incessantly. Upon seeing this, Han Li no longer hesitated any longer as he resumed his journey toward the Heavenly Star City. After just a few flashes, the azure streak of light had reached one of the city gates, but his progress was stalled by that blue light barrier. The Star Palace cultivator behind the light barrier had naturally also caught sight of Han Li, and a loud whistle rang out as a dozen or so Star Palace cultivators of different heights appeared above the city wall, all of whom were appraising Han Li with grave and bewildered expressions. The Starfall Coalition had set up the Heavenly Windfire Formation to prevent people from being able to escape from our Heavenly Star City. Yet Han Li had gone to all this trouble to break through the restriction and enter from the outside. That was simply inexplicable to them. Even though Han Li was still extremely far away from the city, he could clearly see the expressions on the faces of the Star Palace cultivators through the use of his bright sight, spirit eyes. As such, he wasted no time with words flipping over his palm instead. To produce the Star Palace Guest Elder Badge he had received from Wen Qing over a century ago. He raised his hand and the badge slowly flew toward the light barrier, where it remained hovering in mid-air. The sight of this badge created quite a stir among the cultivators above the city gates. Several of the more powerful cultivators were appraising the badge, with their brows furrowed tightly in confusion when one of them suddenly seemed to have come to an abrupt realization. An enlightened expression abruptly appeared on his face as he turned to his companions and said something. Expressions of surprise immediately appeared on the faces of the other cultivators, and one of them hurriedly pulled out a flag before waving it several times toward the blue light barrier. The light barrier swayed, and the badge flew into the barrier as a streak of yellow light. Following a few flashes, it emerged on the other side of the barrier as if it had passed through nothing but empty air. Han Li looked on with an aloof expression as he hovered before the light barrier. At this point, all of the cultivators above the city gates had seen the Guest Elder Badge, and expressions of surprise and elation had appeared on all of their faces. One of them pointed at Han Li and said something before pulling a voice transmission talisman out from his storage pouch. He swept a hand through the air and the talisman transformed into a streak of light as it flew into the city. He then produced a treasure that resembled a formation plate and pointed his finger at it a few times before asking, "Is that you, Senior Han? Please forgive us for our insolence. As you can see, we're in a time of crisis here, and none of us have ever met you in person before, so we can't allow you into the city. However, I've already sent a voice transmission talisman to our palace master, and she'll arrive here shortly." The man's words completely disregarded the blue light barrier and traveled directly into Han Li's ears. Han Li raised his eyebrows upon hearing this, but he merely nodded in response and waited with his hands clasped behind his back. Not long after that, 3 streaks of light flew out rapidly from within the city before stopping atop the city gates. The trio was comprised of 2 men and a woman, and the woman was standing at the center, indicating that she was the leader of the group. The woman was extremely gorgeous, and her facial features struck Han Li with a sense of familiarity. It was none other than Ling Yuling, after reverting back to her female appearance. Accompanying her were a yellow-robed man who appeared to be in his 30s, as well as an elderly man with a head of white hair and a white beard. The 3 of them all had their eyes trained firmly on Han Li. The cultivators guarding the city gates all stood off to the side with respectful expressions, not even daring to breathe too loudly. An elated expression illuminated Ling Yuling's beautiful features as she commanded, "It really is, fellow Daoist Han. I thought that he wouldn't be able to get here. Hurry up and let Brother Han into the city. Palace Master, is that a good idea? Is that man really reliable? We'd be in big trouble if he turned out to be a Starfall Coalition cultivator in disguise." The yellow-robed cultivator dissuaded with a hesitant look on his face. Ling Yuling shook her head firmly and replied, "Don't worry, this Guest Elder Badge is completely unique in this world, so there's no mistaking it. Furthermore, with his extraordinary powers, there's no one in the scattered star seas who would be able to take the badge from him." Upon hearing this, the yellow-robed cultivator could only nod in silence. Thus, the cultivators guarding the city gates immediately sprang into action. All of them summoned either a formation flag or a formation plate before tossing them into the air in unison. Lights of various different colors appeared before the formation tools, disappearing into the light barrier in front of the city gates. The blue light barrier flared abruptly, its brilliance intensifying as ripples of energy spread across its surface. A circular passageway, roughly 10 feet in diameter, slowly opened within it like the eye of a storm. Han Li gave the passage a brief measured glance before transforming into a streak of azure light and shooting into it. In the blink of an eye, he emerged on the other side. The barrier trembled once more, and the passageway vanished without a trace. Ling Yuling turned toward him, her face lighting up with unmistakable joy. "Fellow Daoist Han, you finally arrived." "I gave your parents my word," Han Li replied with a faint smile. "There was no way I could ignore your call for help in a time like this. I am deeply grateful, Brother Han. With you here, those Starfall Coalition fools are nothing to fear." Her voice carried both relief and quiet confidence. "This is no place for discussion. Please come with me to the sacred mountain. Elder Sun, inform all elders not on duty to gather at the sacred palace. I have urgent matters to address." "Yes, Palace Master." The yellow-robed cultivator, an early nascent soul expert, had already attempted to probe Han Li's cultivation the moment he passed through the barrier. What he found was a void beyond comprehension. A flicker of awe mingled with shock crossed his face. After receiving the order, he cupped his fist respectfully and immediately retrieved several voice transmission talismans, dispatching them in quick succession. At that moment, Han Li turned toward the white-haired elder and said with a calm, knowing tone, "It has been a long time, fellow Daoist Zhao. You appear well, and your cultivation has advanced considerably. Allow me to offer my congratulations." The elder was none other than Zhao, the same man who had once proposed dual cultivation on Silver Shark Island. More than a century had passed, and like Ling Yuling, he had reached the mid-nascent soul stage. Yet a wry smile tugged at his lips. "Ha! I could never have achieved this on my own. I owe this breakthrough to the two former palace masters." "I see." Han Li's eyes flickered with quiet contemplation. "So you two are acquainted as well?" Ling Yuling interjected with a gentle smile. "All the better. Let us proceed to the sacred palace. There will be time for conversation there." Han Li gave a slight nod. The group rose into the air, gliding toward the sacred mountain at the heart of Heavenly Star City. Under Ling Yuling's guidance, they ascended to its highest tier before descending before a seemingly unremarkable bluestone palace. Han Li's gaze lingered upon it, a hint of surprise crossing his features. "Does our sacred palace disappoint you, Brother Hani?" Ling Yuling asked with a soft, teasing smile. "It is not what I expected," Han Li admitted without pretense. "It may appear ordinary," she said, "but every former palace master cultivated here. It is one of the most revered places in the Star Palace. Outsiders are never permitted entry, but for you, Brother Han, an exception is only natural." "The structure may be plain," Han Li replied, nodding slightly, "but the spiritual qi here is remarkably dense. Few places in the inner star seas could rival this environment." Ling Yuling's smile deepened, clearly pleased. Without delay, she led him inside. The guards stationed at the gate bowed deeply, their eyes lingering on Han Li with thinly veiled curiosity. The group passed through a short corridor before entering an ancient solemn hall where they each took their seats. Brother Han Ling Yuling began, her tone sharpening as she went straight to the matter at hand. "You must have learned of our situation on your way here." "Of course," Han Li replied calmly. "The Star Palace is in a precarious position." "We once held the advantage," she said, a cold gleam flashing in her eyes. "Everything changed when Wan Tianming broke through to the late nascent soul stage. His ascension turned the tide of the entire war. He is the key to everything. Brother Han, if you can hold him off, I am confident we can crush the Starfall Coalition once more." So Han Li said evenly, "You want me to face Sect Master Wan?" Ling Yuling hesitated, a trace of uncertainty surfacing. "Does that displease you?" Han Li raised an eyebrow. "Not quite. It's just that there seems to be a misunderstanding, Fairy Ling." "A misunderstanding?" Her expression tightened slightly. "Are you saying you did not come here to help us?" "I did come to help," Han Li replied, but his words abruptly halted. His gaze shifted sharply toward the entrance. Ling Yuling followed his line of sight. Moments later, 3 figures entered the hall, one at the mid-nascent soul stage, the other 2 at the early stage. The leader was a pockmarked man in purple robes. He did not bow. Instead, he fixed Han Li with a hostile, almost insolent stare. But the moment his spiritual sense brushed against Han Li, his pupils shrank violently. His expression stiffened. Ling Yuling smiled faintly. Elder Ma, I didn't expect you so soon. Please take a seat. Once the others arrive, I will introduce our honored guest. Indeed, such a cultivation base is unfathomable, the man said, forcing a smile as he composed himself. His earlier arrogance had vanished without a trace. The other two elders exchanged stunned glances before respectfully saluting and taking their seats. Ling Yuling merely brushed a stray lock of hair behind her ear, a cold glint flickering briefly in her eyes. Hanli observed everything quietly, a faint smile playing at his lips. It was obvious. Elder Ma harbored dissatisfaction, and Ling Yuling was using him as a silent warning to keep the others in line. Hanli found it both amusing and mildly exasperating. Still, he paid it no mind. Soon more elders arrived one after another, until over 20 nascent soul cultivators filled the hall. None could discern Han Li's cultivation, so they looked to Elder Ma, and what they saw unsettled them all. At last, Ling Yuling rose gracefully to her feet. Now that everyone is here, she announced, "Allow me to introduce an esteemed guest of our Star Palace, the guest elder appointed by the former palace, Masters Han Li." A ripple of shock swept through the hall. Han Li, one elder blurted out. Han Li turned his gaze toward the speaker, a kindly-looking white-robed elder. His eyes narrowed. Recognition dawned, and with it a chill. "It seems we have met before," Han Li said slowly, his voice turning cold. "In the Heaven Void Hall, there were two of you responsible for opening it. Where is the other?" The white-robed elder's face turned deathly pale. Ling Yuling's heart sank. "You recognize Elder He-Men?" she asked cautiously. For a moment, countless thoughts flickered through Han Li's eyes. Then just as suddenly they settled. His expression returned to calm. "We are not well acquainted," he said evenly. "He merely caused me some inconvenience before I reached the nascent soul stage." Relief washed over Ling Yuling. "If he offended you in the past, I hope you can forgive him, Brother Han," she said quickly. "Let us return to the matter of Wan Tianming. The Star Palace's priority is to eliminate the Starfall Coalition." The white-robed elder also exhaled slightly, but the fear in his heart lingered. "I don't know what the former palace masters told you," Han Li said slowly, his voice steady yet unmistakably firm. "But the promise I made was this. I would intervene only if your life were in direct danger, and I would do everything in my power to save you." He paused. "I never agreed to risk my life fighting someone of equal cultivation for the sake of the Star Palace." Silence fell over the entire hall. Heavy. Absolute. "If the Star Palace falls, do you truly believe I would remain safe, fellow Daoist Han?" Ling Yuling asked slowly, her brows knitting together. "Besides, I'm not asking you to fight Wan Tianming to the death. I only need you to hold him off while I lead our forces in a counterattack against the Starfall Coalition. Surely that is within your capabilities, Brother Han." "That is indeed within my abilities," Han Li replied calmly. "However, Wan Tianming is a great cultivator as well. I cannot predict whether he will attempt to force a battle to the death. If you can accept that I may withdraw should he reveal some decisive trump card, then I can consider intervening." He paused briefly, his tone turning more deliberate. "Besides, the survival of the Star Palace and your personal safety are two entirely different matters. Even if the Star Palace were to fall, I am confident I could still keep you alive. That alone would fulfill the promise I made to your predecessors." His gaze remained steady. "Otherwise, it is simply not worth the risk for me to stake my life against an equal for rewards that may not justify it." His words, measured and composed, cut straight to the heart of the matter. Ling Yuling's expression shifted ever so slightly. Elder Zhao, having already grasped the implication, stroked his beard thoughtfully. "Fellow Daoist Han, if I understand correctly, you are not unwilling to assist us. However, you require a price worthy of the risk. Is that right?" "Of course," Han Li replied with a faint smile. "Nothing in this world comes without a price. If your Star Palace can offer something sufficiently enticing, I may be willing to take that risk." "What is it that you desire from our Star Palace, fellow Daoist Han?" Elder Ma asked, his tone sharp. Hanli shook his head slightly. It is not a question of what I desire. It is a question of what your star palace is prepared to offer. A ripple of tension passed through the hall. The elders exchanged glances, some already communicating silently through voice transmission. In truth, none of them were surprised. After all, if they themselves were asked to risk their lives against a cultivator of equal standing with no reward, they would refuse without hesitation. And this was no ordinary battle, but a clash between great cultivators' beings who stood at the very pinnacle of the mortal world. The risks were immeasurable, yet finding something that could tempt a figure like Han Li, that was no easy task. Ling Yuling sat in silence, her expression contemplative as the elders deliberated. After a time she spoke. Your reasoning is sound, Brother Han. Ordinary treasures would naturally fail to interest you. She lifted her gaze. In that case, I am willing to offer you the divine essence-fused light, along with the divine essence-fused mountain of our star palace. A faint pause. Will that suffice, fellow Daoist Han? The divine essence-fused light is an unparalleled cultivation art. Only someone of your extraordinary talent would be worthy of cultivating it. Han Li's eyes flickered. This was precisely what he had come for. For a fleeting moment, even his composure faltered. He narrowed his eyes, studying Ling Yuling carefully before falling into silent contemplation. Around him, the elders were visibly startled, but after exchanging a few glances, none voiced any objection. The divine essence-fused light was indeed a supreme art, once cultivated by the heavenly star sages themselves. Yet it was notoriously difficult to master, and its drawbacks were well known. To most, it was more symbolic than practical. Thus, their concern was not opposition, but whether Han Li would accept. To their surprise, he did not deliberate for long. A faint, knowing smile appeared on his lips. It seems Fairy Ling already knew what I wanted, he said. I am not a greedy man. I will not ask for more. He inclined his head slightly. I accept. A brief pause. When the time comes, I will help your star palace hold off Wan Tianming. I cannot promise to kill him, but I will ensure he cannot threaten any of you. Relief and joy blossomed across Ling Yuling's face. Excellent. Our star palace places its full trust in you, Brother Han. I will have someone deliver the divine essence-fused light to you immediately. As for the divine essence-fused mountain, you shall receive it once this battle concludes. Han Li rose to his feet. Then I shall await your instructions, he said calmly. The journey here has been rather taxing. I will take my leave to rest. Of course, Ling Yuling replied at once. Turning to Elder Zhao, she added, Elder Zhao, prepare a quiet cultivation chamber for fellow Daoist Han. He is an honored guest, please see to his comfort. Elder Zhao bowed and led Han Li out. Han Li gave Ling Yuling a slight nod, but just before leaving, he turned his gaze toward Elder Shimen. A faint blue light shimmered in his eyes. Only then did he depart. A chill crept down Elder Shimen's spine. At that very instant, a sharp pain pierced his spiritual sense, nearly forcing him from his seat. But as soon as Han Li disappeared, the pain vanished completely, as though it had never existed. Alarmed Elder Heman hurriedly inspected himself with his spiritual sense. Nothing. Relief flooded him, though unease lingered. Still, he made a silent decision. Once this meeting ended, he would hide. Somewhere remote, somewhere unseen. Until the battle began. Because he knew the strike he had once delivered in the Heaven Void Hall had nearly taken Han Li's life. And now, Han Li stood far above him. There was no reason to believe he would forgive. If he had known then what Han Li would become, he would have either stayed his hand or made certain there was no one left alive. Regret weighed heavily upon his heart. Not long after Han Li departed, Elder Ma turned to Ling Yuling, suspicion etched across his face. Palace Master, can this Han Li truly hold off Wan Tianming? And can we trust him? What if he turns against us mid-battle? Would it not be safer to rely on our defensive formation and remain on guard? Ling Yuling shook her head firmly. I've known him since before he made his agreement with my parents. We are not close, but I know this much. He bears deep enmity toward the Starfall Coalition because of the heaven void. Cauldron incident. Her voice grew resolute. He would never side with them. As for his strength, he reached the late nascent soul stage before Wan Tianming did. And with the heaven void cauldron in his possession, he is very likely the stronger of the two. She swept her gaze across the hall. Do any of you have a better plan? Silence. The heavenly star city barrier will not endure forever under the assault of the heavenly windfire formation. We cannot remain passive. Her voice hardened. This war must be decided. Either the Starfall Coalition falls, or we do. Elder Ma fell silent, unable to refute her. Then it seems he said at last, we have no choice but to rely on him. Ling Yuling allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. Then let us discuss our strategy. Within a secluded cultivation chamber, silence reigned. Han Li sat cross-legged, hands forming an intricate seal, his eyes closed. Time passed. Then, his eyes opened. Going after that elder G-men already. A soft, youthful voice echoed beside him, the endless sky beast. You noticed Han Li said, his tone cold. I may not know the exact technique you used. The beast chuckled. But you left a spiritual mark on him before you departed. Subtle, but not beyond my notice. A pause. I doubt you did that to invite him for tea. Han Li smiled faintly, though there was no warmth in it. You're right. That man nearly killed me in the Heaven Void Hall. I'm not petty, but I do not forgive attempted murder. His gaze turned sharp. It would have been inconvenient to act inside the palace. But now, he has stepped outside. A flicker of killing intent passed through the air. It's time. He tapped his storage pouch. A humanoid puppet appeared in a flash of silver light, slipping soundlessly into the shadows. Han Li rose and stepped out. Moments later, he entered a hall where Elder Zhao sat calmly sipping tea. A gentle smile appeared on Han Li's face. Elder Zhu, you cultivate wood attribute arts, correct? If you're willing, perhaps we could exchange some insights. Half a day later, a soul lamp flickered, then went out. Panic erupted. Within hours, several elders stormed Elder He-Men's secret chamber. It was empty. Completely empty. No body. No trace. Only silence remained, as if he had never existed at all.